We're live on YouTube, and YouTube TV will be getting started here in about 30 seconds.
Somebody please elevate Dr. Corvo to presenter.
Yeah, we're waiting to get the host rights back. We'll be
Oh,
on
gotcha.
as I get the rights. I'll take care of
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rocky.
Julianne, can you hear me? This is Jane Philbrook.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? Can other people hear me?
I can hear.
I can
Yes,
hear
I'm able
you,
to hear
Leanne.
you as well.
Okay.
I can hear both
Yep,
of you.
very.
Weird.
And that you can- Mr. Mayor, we're ready when you are.
I am ready. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and his current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of the meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call: Johnson,
Here.
Kane, Markley,
Here.
Walters,
Here.
Philbrook,
Here.
Bynum,
Here.
Burrows,
Here.
Townsend. Commissioner Townsend,
Here.
McKiernan,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Albee.
Here. Thank you. The invocation is being given by none other than Commissioner Harold Johnson of Faith Deliverance Church of God in Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the names that God is known by in the Hebrew language is Jehovah Rapha, and it means that God is our healer. It is in that spirit in which we pray tonight. Let us bow our heads and pray. Eternal Father, we thank you because we know you to be a healer. And in this time, Lord, we are appreciative and thankful for the fact that you've given our nation the wisdom to find a vaccine for this deadly virus. Give us wisdom continued, God, as we move forward in the vaccination of those essential workers and those, Lord, that are most affected by it. Help us, God, to heal as a nation, and also help us to heal, Lord, from the racial injustice that we've witnessed as well. We ask you, God, to be with us in this meeting, be our guide, and lead us and guide us in ways that will heal our city, this community that we call Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. We pray this in the matchless name of Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
to
of the
the United States of America
and to the
and to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
for all.
justice for all.
Once again, thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And as the clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
There are no revisions this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have two parts to our meeting, the planning and zoning, followed by a regular commission meeting. But first, we will take action on the mayor's agenda before we move into planning and zoning. And our first order of business is a resolution extending the state of local health emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic for the county of Wyandotte, Kansas. I'd recognize Julianne Van Loo, Public Health Director, and ask that she provide an update on COVID here in Wyandotte County.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I am going to preemptively apologize. I have a toddler who's currently having a massive meltdown. So please forgive me if you hear screams in the background. I'm doing my best. So, but appreciate your time this evening. Dr. Greiner and Dr. Corbo are here with me for kind of a bit of a standard update for us. We will go ahead and dive in with our data update, talk about our health orders and some CDC recommendations you may have heard about and what's on the horizon for us. Our standard kind of table that we tend to look at here shows that we are just a bit over 11,000 cases currently. Our case rate per 100,000 is nearing 7,000. Although if you remember presentations past, Johnson County and Kansas City, Missouri were previously about half of our rate. So they are catching up to us, which means that cases are accelerating in some of the jurisdictions around us a little bit quicker than what we are experiencing here, which is obviously a positive for our population. Our deaths are still sitting at 180 as they have been for a few days now, but our death rate does remain significantly higher than those around us. When we look at our 7-day rolling average, we are at about 75 new cases a day. I'll talk a little bit more about why I think that's a slightly false number because of what the last week has shown us. Our deaths are at 0 for the last 7 days, which is fantastic, although as we've mentioned before, it's often a 2, 3, or even 4-week lag before deaths catch up when we have case spikes. And lastly, our percent positivity is just very, very high at the moment at 38%. So you can see here the graph of cases over time. Obviously, if you look at the right portion of this, you can see the major uptick that we've seen in recent weeks. I would caution you to read too much into the last 4, 5, or 6 days that you can see there where there's a drop off. We did not test out at our Kmart site on Thanksgiving Day or the Friday after or the weekend. So 4 days where we did not test at our site, which is the largest testing site in the county, means that we just simply didn't test enough to see those cases popping up. So just want to make sure folks know that rebound is going to happen quickly and that decrease there really does not reflect reality. I mentioned our percent positivity around 38%. As you can see here on the left-hand side, we're nearing the percent positivity that we saw at the height of our stay-at-home order back in April, which is obviously problematic. But the big difference between now and then is that at that point, when our percent was 38% positivity, we were testing about 100 folks a day. Now we're testing between 650 and 700 folks a day. So a 38% positivity means way, way, way more cases now than it did then. And lastly, before I pass it off here, just a reminder that we continue to see growth within our case rates for our younger demographic. So even just a month ago, our 0 to 9 and our 10 to 19 demographic had much lower numbers. Those continue to rise, as well as our 20 to 29 and our 30 and 40-year-olds, so our middle-aged folks as well. We are not continuing to see massive upticks in our older population in terms of their number of cases. I'm going to pass it off now to our health officer, Dr. Greiner.
Thank you, Julianne, and good evening, commissioners and mayor. So we wanted to tell you a little bit about what's going on with our relatively new safety inspectors. You may have heard us talk previously about how we were going to move into hiring a couple retired police officers who wanted to get involved in COVID. And that's happened now, and they've been going since the 9th of November, basically following up on reports we get on the 311 line or complaints that get called into the police department or the sheriff's office. You can see that they've made a bunch of visits. They're making 4 to 5 visits to places of business or other entities in the county per day. They're doing that in about a 24-hour or less turnaround time. You can see most of the places have been restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores, etc. And what they're doing is going out, and it's education first, just like what we did in the stay-at-home order way back when with cooperation from the police department. So when they make a first visit, it's all about talking to ownership, management, trying to figure out what's going on and provide education on the importance of mask use and social distancing and setting things up so that folks are safe. They've made 6 second visits and only 1/3 visit. They've not issued any citations. If that happens, they would have to coordinate with us at the health department as well as PD, who is aware of that. And so that could happen. But so far, we feel like people are really complying. The education is well received, and the businesses as well as individuals in those environments are making changes, which we think is really good. So this has been a really positive program so far, and we hope that continues in the coming weeks and months. Next slide. This is more about the inspections. We are, with the data they're collecting, and some of it's good, some of it's not so good. So employee screening in businesses is a little lower than we'd like. So we want all businesses asking their employees when they arrive for the day, whether they've got any symptoms, getting their temperature taken on arrival. Over 50% are doing that, but we'd like to see that rise. Mask compliance is moderate. They're looking at all the employees in a situation and documenting whether 100% of those employees are wearing masks or not. Many of the businesses have at least one employee that has no mask, but that's lower. Customer mask compliance also moderate, and they're looking at, is there one customer in there with no mask? About a quarter are seeing that situation. But social distancing is good. They're seeing pretty good social distancing. They're taking a bunch of signs and floor stickers out and providing those to businesses, and that stuff seems to be well received. So we think that that's something that we can continue to work on. Next slide. What's going on with contact tracing? Well, with the major spike in cases we've had since the beginning of November, and having many times hundreds and hundreds of new cases each day, we've fallen behind, even with 57 contact tracers, right? So we've got 30 full-time contact tracers, 20 part-time student volunteers, and 7 volunteers that are UG employees that have been redeployed. We've talked about this before. A case can take anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 or 4 hours sometimes just to talk to one positive person and figure out who all they've been in contact with. So we're back to where we're 600 or 700 cases behind now, and trying to really get on top of that and prioritize what this workforce can do and what we might need additional help for. So right now what we're doing is new cases that roll in, we're trying to prioritize them and not worry so much about a case that may be 6, 7, 9 days old. And then we're trying to focus in on individuals that are younger, ages 0 to 30. And the reason for that is we think those individuals are more likely to be more active in the community. Maybe it's school, maybe it's in other environments, and they're more likely to spread to multiple people. So we will keep that focus. And we may be asking the state again for some assistance in the other groups, or looking for other strategies. And this is not just us. This is really a nationwide problem we're seeing with this huge increase in cases that's happened this fall. We also have encouragement for people to do their own contact tracing, and we have a great flyer for that as well. So next slide. So you may have heard this week about the Centers for Disease Control's new guidance on quarantine. We're not sure what motivated this, and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment is continuing to recommend a 14-day quarantine period for those who have a close contact to a positive case. We looked at all the evidence and the documents CDC put out. We just don't feel like the scientific evidence is there to justify this at this time. They've put some data out about how people's chance of transmitting the virus after 10 days in quarantine is anywhere from 1 to 5.5%, I think, were the numbers they put out there. And it's got two tiers to it. A person who doesn't get tested for COVID and is in quarantine can do a 10-day quarantine under their guidance, and then come out of that quarantine. But they acknowledge there's some risk that person could transmit after day 10. They've also said a person could come out of quarantine if they go 7 days and then they get a PCR test that's negative. And they've said, well, in that case, the chance of the person transmitting it after day 7 is a little higher, maybe 5 to 12%. We just don't understand why they've done this. And so we are going to go along with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment for now and stick with our 14-day quarantine number. We think that evidence is strong, and we think the public knows that number right now. And so we feel like, okay, we'll relook at this after the holidays are over. But to me, it seemed like this should have waited till after the holidays are over anyway. And we'll see. Some other counties across our region are going to change to this reduced quarantine, but we're not, at least at this point. Next slide. So this goes to Dr. Corvo. I will turn it over to her from here.
Thanks, Dr. Greiner. Good evening, everybody. I want to share with you some news about hospital capacity. I'm sure that many of you have seen on the national news that unfortunately, as a nation, now over 100,000 people are hospitalized with COVID-19 in the United States. We're also having some pretty significant challenges still in Wyandotte County. And I just wanted to point out some numbers here and some of the changes that are occurring within KU Hospital. Of course, as you know, Dr. Greiner and I are both staff there. So about 20% of all the patients at KU at this point in time have COVID-19, which is pretty significant. That's this morning, 170 patients within the hospital were COVID-19 positive. As far as our ICU capacity, 55 patients with COVID are in the ICU, and 35 of those are currently on ventilators. And just to give you a sense of this, so the great majority of people who are on ventilators in the hospital right now have COVID-19. Unfortunately, nursing ratios are starting to change at this point, such that, you know, in the ICU setting, especially, we generally have one nurse for every 2 patients. And at this point in time, we're needing to change that for 1 nurse for 3 patients. And so we know that that type of ratio change does have unfortunate consequences potentially. Elective surgeries have really slowed down and in some cases halted altogether. Patients are also being treated at our Indian Creek location. We needed to essentially open up a new space away from the main hospital to house patients, and those are patients who do not have COVID-19. We're also in the process of converting another ward within KU Hospital to serve ICU patients. Next slide. Thanks. Our ICU ethics committee continues to talk about how we would distribute care should rationing be necessary in the future. We are also, kind of concerned that there may be some staff shifting that needs to happen. And what I mean by that is, for instance, if we need more people tending to ICU patients, it may be potentially needed for some of our emergency room doctors to go to the ICU to work. Perhaps maybe our family medicine doctors may need to staff the emergency room and that sort of thing. we're also having really continued difficulty with transferring patients really all around the region. Dr. Greiner and I are part of a group where we get together with our rural health officers, and we're learning that there's still significant issues with transferring patients, of course, from rural areas into bigger cities. And it's not just in Kansas City, the whole region, including Wichita, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, et cetera. We're just having a rough time because there's not many beds available. Next slide, please. Despite some bad news there before, I do want to say that there was some really cool news this morning. There was an article written, I believe, in Great Britain that gave a really nice shout out to Wyandotte County. And I want to say to the community and to all of you, thank you so much for wearing your masks. I mean, we got a really high, what they call mask wearing score. And so they looked at a lot of different communities, and looking between the months of June to October, they said, boy, Wyandotte County really had some great guidance there. They wore their masks. And it looks like because of that, we were able as a community to save probably as many as 150 lives, which is really, really quite incredible. So kudos to all of you. Next slide, please. So again, we've been in our new health orders now for almost 2 weeks. Tomorrow will mark the 2-week point for our current health orders. Of course, mask wearing, social distancing, and our gathering limitations to 10 are what are currently in place. And we appreciate how well all of you guys are doing. As Dr. Greiner pointed out, many of our businesses are complying just beautifully with that, and are complying after just one educational visit, which is great. However, I do want to make the point that we're in quite a surge right now. And at the health department, we're beginning to wonder that even if we're complying with the current orders, if that is actually going to be enough to decrease the spread of this virus and help save that hospital capacity that we're really thinking we're going to be needing, especially after this Thanksgiving holiday. Next slide. So one thing that we're thinking about that I want to remind everybody about is defining your bubble. And we think that the holidays and really right now is a really important time because of this surge in COVID cases to recommit to a really tight bubble. And what that is it's those individuals that you trust. You've talked to them about how they're keeping their masks on, they're not needlessly interacting with others, they're not taking trips to multiple stores and that sort of thing, if they don't absolutely have to, that you trust those individuals to make good choices and wear masks when they're outside of the house. And so we're asking all of you, please limit your social bubble right now really tightly to only those who are in your immediate household. We think that this is going to be incredibly important, and we wonder if we're having, trouble getting the point across about what your bubble actually is. So this schematic just makes the point that the bubble that you think you have there, which is the black circle, may actually be much larger. So you can see that that person thinks that they have that small little bubble. However, all those people in that person's bubble, they actually have these really big bubbles around them too. And suddenly that one person has all these people that they're interacting with through those people who they thought were in their bubble. So it's time for us to really, talk with our household members and get really serious about this. Next slide, please. Just the final slide here. We're talking about some big goals that we've got in the health department, and we just want to put it all out there for you. We intend to keep children in school for as long as we possibly can. And so we think that the things that we can do to keep them in school is to drive down that infection rate within our community. But we've still been in really close touch with our superintendents and teachers and our school nurses. And we just think that it's really important for them to stay in school. Also, we really are trying to emphasize mask wearing. Just like I said, when you get outside of your bubble, you've got to put a mask on. We know that that stops the spread of COVID-19, and we know that it saves lives. We saw that awesome article that came out today that mentioned Wyandotte County. All of you know how to do it. And so we're asking that that mask wearing thing, just really keep that at the core of what we do to stop the spread of this virus. We also understand at the health department that this is a really difficult time. And we think that it's going to be really difficult to do much more in terms of, you know, we don't want to shut down businesses. We don't want to shut down schools or other things that we need. Those things are going to have to keep going until we've got some economic relief, whether that be at the federal level or state level or whatever. We are pushing for that so that we can hopefully halt the spread of this virus. But we understand that this is a difficult time. And so we are trying to support our businesses and our families by advocating for that type of economic relief. The last thing that I want to say is that we're continuing to stay in close touch with other Metro leaders, with health officers, and with directors of health departments. I know I have to shout out to Mayor Alvey and how well he's been communicating with other elected officials in the county. And so we are really committed, I think, to moving together also with our colleagues around these initiatives to stop the spread of COVID. And with that, I believe that's our last slide. I will kick it back to Mayor Alvey for questions. Thank you.
Yikes.
You got it. Good job, Mayor.
Oh, Harold, I feel your pain.
I can.
We do have a resolution extending the state of local health emergency. Do we have a copy of that available? Do we have the language for that?
It should be in the agenda packet, electronically even. Did you want me to get that and read that?
Right. First of all, questions or comments from the commission? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second, Ramirez.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is a resolution extending the state of local health emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic for the county of Wyandotte, Kansas through March 15th, 2021. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Johnson.
Aye.
Martley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend. I understand Commissioner Townsend's been having some connectivity issues. McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Commissioner Townsend, are you there? Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you, Doctors Corriveau and Greiner and Julianne. Thank you for all your hard work, continually keeping us updated and being at the forefront, really, in efforts in the metropolitan area. The leadership that you have exhibited is widely known, and we appreciate what you're doing to lead us. So thank you. All right, we'll now hear the planning and zoning matters next. I'd ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor David Albee, Commissioner Melissa Bynum at Large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows at Large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Christian Ramirez, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, who is unable to be present this evening, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has three options. 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. Or 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the Planning and Zoning consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all of the items on the Planning and Zoning consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any questions to set, or any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to raise your hand and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If you contacted the UG Clerk's office, that item will be set aside by the UG Clerk on your behalf. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone who is joining us by Zoom or by phone to mute your device when not speaking to avoid background noise so you do not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state their views. This is your time to raise your hand. When your name is called, please state your name and city of residency for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda.
All right, seeing none.
Okay, then I will now read the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda. Under the change of zone application, item 13229 Chase Thompson. Change the zone from R1 single family district to AG agriculture district for agricultural purposes at 1959 South 51st Street. Recommended for approval. Item 23230 Chase Thompson. Change the zone from R1 single family district to AG agriculture district for gardening, raising flocks, pond, and growing trees at 2025 South 51st Street. Recommended for approval. Item 3, 3238, Neil Daisy and Lauren Tweedy. Change of zone from M2 General Industrial District to R2B to Family District for an existing home at 809 Southwest Boulevard. Recommended for approval. Item 4, 3239, Michael J. Coons and Christine Sayalaro. Change of zone from M2 General Industrial District to R2B to Family District for an existing home at 815 Southwest Boulevard. Recommended for approval. Item 5, Andrea Weisshaw with Atlas Surveyors. Change of zone from AG Agriculture District to R1 Single Family District for a single family subdivision at 2951 North 115th Street. Recommended for approval. Under the special use permit applications, item 1, SP-2020-72, Karen and Nathaniel Scottinus with range 23. Special use permit for a microbrewery at 13400 Donahue Road. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2020-73, Bill and Mary Bassler. Special use permit for an event space with live entertainment at 13400 Donahue Road. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 3, SP 2020-88, Paul Ridgeway. Home occupation special use permit for a personal trainer at 419 Armstrong Avenue. Recommended for approval for 1 year. Item 4, SP 2020-92, Trevor and Elizabeth Ross. Special use permit for farm animals, chickens, goats, and cows at 1700 South 38th Street. Recommended for approval for 5 years. Item 5, SP 2020-93, Daniel Chang with Evergreen Daycare. Renewal of a special use permit for a daycare center at 1030 Orville Avenue. Recommended for approval for 10 years. Item 6, SP 2020-94, Doug Clements with USD 500. Special use permit for a staff parking lot at John Fisk Elementary School at 616 South Valley Street. Recommended for approval for 5 years. Item 7, SP 2020-95, Trent Gaddy with Jules Boral and Company. Special use permit to allow the receiving of inventory at the dock, storage with the building interior, and shipping at 1223 Middle Lark Lane. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 8, SP 2020-96, Ryan Dink with McEnany, Van Cleef and Phillips. Renewal of a special use permit to allow tractor trailer truck parking at 7949 Split Log Avenue. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Under miscellaneous ordinances, I will say that all 9 items have received the recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. Then items are as follows. Item 1, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of an auto body shop at 5015 Gibbs Road. Item 2, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of a group home / emergency shelter at 1634 South 29th Street. Item 3, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of a daycare center at 2605 West 39th Avenue. Item 4, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for temporary lodging for families of patients at the University of Kansas Health System at 4146 State Line Road. Item 5, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of live entertainment at 11255 Leavenworth Road. Item 6, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for the continuation of a short-term rental Airbnb at 4112 Booth Street. Item 7, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for an earth and fill at 732 North 57th Street. Item 8, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for the temporary use of land for a modular classroom for M.E. Pearson Elementary School at 310 North 11th Street. And item 9, an ordinance rezoning property at 13635 Hollingsworth Road from AG Wyco Agriculture District to R1 Single Family District. Those are all the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
Thank you. Does any member of the commission, administrator, or public wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the planning commission. I'm having a hard time accessing my participants here. All right. I'd ask the clerk, have we received any requests from the public to set aside an item?
No requests from the public have been received.
All right. Seeing no request, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the planning and zoning consent agenda.
Commissioner McKiernan, move to approve all as submitted.
Markley, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Johnson,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend. Commissioner Townsend?
Click unmute. You can click unmute, Commissioner Townsend, you'll be able to speak.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Townsend, are you there? Mayor, would you like for me to pause or go ahead and give the vote?
Commissioner Townsend just notified the clerk's office that her vote is a yes.
Thank you.
So the motion carries 9-0.
Thank you so much. Now we have two items under the planning and zoning non-consent agenda. These items are related. They'll be heard together. Change of zone petition 3223, Brad Heyman with North Point Development, seeking a change of zone from AG Agricultural District to RP5 Planned Apartment District for future apartment complex development at 11501 Parallel Parkway. Planning Commission voted 6-1 for approval. The companion item, Master Plan Amendment MP-2020-4, Brad Heyman with North Point Development to amend the master plan from planned commercial and business park to high density residential at 11501 Parallel Parkway. Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval. I'd ask staff to make some opening remarks. Mr. Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. As the mayor mentioned, this is tied to the master plan amendment for the same property. The Planning Commission approved the plat that created the parcel for this at our commission hearing in November. It's for a 323 unit apartment complex. Thus far, or on the property, there's been no NOVs. There was no opposition to the case. Staff worked with the applicant in regards to the design of the project as it relates to the Planning Commission's multifamily design guidelines. We did work through some issues related to pedestrian circulation. There's a condition of approval associated with that, as well as pedestrian orientation. At the Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission struck one of the conditions of approval. Based on the multifamily design guidelines, there's a general intent of those guidelines to be pedestrian oriented, and staff felt that the building was situated in a way that was too far away from Parallel Parkway. We asked that the building be moved closer to Parallel Parkway. The commission struck that condition of approval, but left in place other conditions as it relates to pedestrian circulation, both externally and internally, as well as providing certain pedestrian facilities. We believe that we can use those conditions of approval, if approved tonight by the Board of Commissioners, to work with the applicant as they finalize some of the details of this project in their final plan moving forward. With that, we recommend approval.
Thank you. Is the applicant available to present application? Mr. Haymond?
Mr. Heyman is here. He's raising his hand right now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Brad Heyman with North Point Development, 4825 Northwest 41st Street, Riverside, Missouri. Thank you and good evening tonight. Just wanted to run through just a quick overview of the plan. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this, we're the developer on the first two phases just to the east of this site. Both of those are, approximately $50 million investments in the community and have just gone extremely well for us. And we're back here for a third time to hopefully continue that great streak and provide some great communities and opportunity for residents to come and live in Wyandotte County. So what we're proposing here is similar to the first two phases, but slightly different in appearance. So it's 323 units in 4 different buildings. Similar to the second phase, if you've been out there, so it is a little bit more dense. It has a internal clubhouse that's integrated into the main building on the north side there that is up towards Parallel Parkway. So that's one difference, is that this one will really kind of have some presence off of Parallel Parkway and stretch all the way down to Delaware Parkway, where we'll be doing an extension of Delaware Parkway in conjunction with this development as well too. So access off of both roads there. And it has ultimately it's kind of got parking around the perimeters with a courtyard that's in the middle of the property. Those amenities will consist of heated saltwater pools. We even have a couple of bocce ball courts and a pickleball court planned in that kind of middle terraced courtyard. So similar to the first two projects, it is a 4-story project and kind of a combination of studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom with den units that are kind of mixed throughout the community. So in this elevation, you can kind of see that integrated clubhouse here on the corner. It's kind of distinct there as you come in and offers a great opportunity for people that live within that building to be able to pull right in to whether a garage or a parking stall, go into their unit and go pick up their mail and enjoy amenities without ever leaving the building in inclement weather, which has just been a great accommodation that we did in the second phase that has gone over extremely well. So that's pretty well a synopsis of the project, and we're just looking forward to having another opportunity to work with the community there and continue the streak of great success.
Thank you, sir. Now open the public hearing. Clerk, have we received any notification from the public who wish to express comments in favor of this item?
No public comments for or against were received.
Okay, well, thank you. Is there anyone online from the public who would like to speak in favor of change of zone petition 3223 or master plan amendment MP 2020-4? If so, please raise your hand to be acknowledged.
Mr. Mayor, I do not see anyone raising their hands as an attendee.
Thank you. Have we received any notification of opposition?
The clerk's office has not received any notice of opposition from the public.
And is there Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in opposition? If so, please raise your hand.
No one is requesting to speak in opposition, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll now close the public hearing. Mr. Heyman, do you have any closing comments?
No, sir. I think it was a great overview given by Mr. Hand, and yeah, we're just looking forward to an opportunity to continue to invest and bring another great project and successful project out to this part of the
Thank you.
lineup.
I'll entertain a motion for change of zone petition 3223.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Bynum has her hand up, sir.
Oh, I was going to bring that after we get the motion
Okay.
second. That's okay. Yeah, Commissioner Bynum.
Mayor, thanks. Are these two items going to be voted together or separate?
Separate,
please.
Okay, thanks. I would make a motion for approval of this item. I do support the project. I was a little confused by Mr. Hand's comment about orientation of the buildings more toward parallel. I'm not sure I understood that, but my only point to that is I don't believe there's any sidewalks on parallel at that location.
Commissioner Bynum, this is Gunnar Hand. Again, the applicant submitted this project as the most urban of their projects, and as the multifamily design guidelines lay out, there's a sort of a great emphasis on pedestrian orientation and scale as it addresses the street frontage. So this is the project as proposed. It has since changed as a condition of approval that's included today. So for instance, it will build a sidewalk for this section of Parallel Parkway, and this is typical in these parts of Wyandotte County where we're sort of piecing together a sidewalk network as we move along and develop the project. So it essentially would go from curb to sidewalk to garages to drive aisle to parking to internal sidewalk to building. So we were hoping that they could move the building closer to Parallel Parkway, so it felt like it was on Parallel Parkway as opposed to step back from Parallel Parkway. Instead, we worked through the site design with the applicant, and as you can see right here, originally as proposed, there were 3 garages, detached garages along Parallel Parkway that would have blocked that sort of pedestrian connection, and so they have agreed to remove those from the northern part of the property, and they would move them somewhere else. I think they said they were going to move them on the western property line. Again, that's something that we'll see in the final plan development, but it is a part of the condition of approval here to move those specifically. So between that and some other pedestrian circulation issues, we think that we can address a lot of them at final plan.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I do move approval.
Walters, second.
Okay, seeing no one's hand raised, we have a motion and a second. This is for change of zone petition 3223. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Johnson,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Commissioner Townsend has contacted the clerk's office and her vote is an aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez. Commissioner Ramirez,
Troubles with the internet.
was that an aye?
Yes, aye.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion for Master Plan Amendment MP-2020-4.
Walters, move for approval.
Bynum, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing no hands raised. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Johnson,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Commissioner Townsend's vote is an aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
and Ramirez.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. That concludes planning and zoning. We'll now move to the regular portion. This is the regular consent agenda. Does any member of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
Commissioner McKiernan, move to approve all as submitted.
Ramirez, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Roll call, Johnson,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Commissioner Townsend is voting aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Our final item, Trail Network Development Project. This item was presented last Monday to the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee. It was approved unanimously to move to the full commission. This is for a decision regarding which trail to fund in phase one. So I'd ask Commissioner Bynum, who chaired that standing committee meeting, for any additional comments before I call on staff.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a great opportunity for a trail, beginning of a trail network program, and I believe there are 4 parks under consideration. We did have a really good discussion, and at the end of the day, decided it was a better discussion for our entire commission, and so that is why we moved it forward to full commission. And so thank you for that. I'll hand it back to you.
All right, thank you. Angela Olbert, if you would like to make your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Commissioners. As Commissioner Bynum said, this is a trail network and development program, and I just want to start off by saying, you know, we're really excited about this program. We just had the soft ribbon cutting, socially distanced of the Jersey Creek Trail resurfacing. And as we all know, our parks have been used a lot throughout this pandemic, and trails now more than ever. So this is something that is very important to our community, and we're just really excited to be able to move this project forward. So a little bit about the project introduction. This is a trail network and development program. Was implemented to facilitate the development and implementation of a more robust trails network throughout Wyandotte County that will allow for connection points to neighboring communities through the use of sidewalk improvements, on-street trails, bike paths, off-road trails, and other mixed use of trails. This new trail will be funded by the Tourism and Convention Fund, a special revenue fund used to improve, promote, or generate additional tourism in Kansas City, Kansas, and is distributed between the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Unified Government. Funding has been allocated annually for this project. So as a part of this project, we want to work with the commission to help determine which park will receive a new trail, which is why we will be presenting the 4 park recommendations here tonight that we will walk through. And the recommendations, we came to these 4 park recommendations through information from the 2017 master plan. So we've been referring to that and getting a lot of our guidance from there, and also working with the professionals at Benish. One second. Let me, second. It's pulling up the wrong one. Just give me a second here. Apologize for that. I had to reboot my computer. It pulled up the wrong one. Okay, so I apologize for that. This picture here is a depiction of what to expect, what the trail will look like. So the trail will be 10 foot wide. It will be ADA compliant and made with 4 inches of pavement on top of 4 inches of gravel. The master plan in 2017 did recommend and refer that building ADA accessible paved trail networks throughout the 4 parks that we will walk through was recommended. The first park we'll walk through is Clam Park. Clam Park is a 30.2 acre park. So the picture here in the purple is the proposed trail route. It's approximately 0.80 miles long. This trail would take 5 phases to complete and slated completion date of 2024. Clam Park has some great amenities: playground, basketball court, tennis courts, a medium shelter there, baseball field, and restrooms. Some positive comments about Clam Park. This was the park board's first recommendation. So we did take this presentation to the park board back in October. And out of the 4 parks, Clam Park was their first recommendation. This park has easy access. It is flat, open area. Some challenges with Clam Park is that there is limited parking. Lighting is an issue. And also you can see in this map that it is split in half by a drainage ditch. The next recommendation is Rosedale. Rosedale is a 72.9 acre park. So you can see here in purple the proposed trail within the park. It would be approximately 0.65 miles long. Since it is a shorter trail, it would only take 3 phases and would be slated to be completed in 2023. As most of you know, Rosedale is one of our most used parks. It has great amenities: playgrounds, baseball fields, skate parks, tennis courts, restrooms. There's a big disc golf population here at Rosedale, shelters and ball fields. So some positive comments. The park board did favor Rosedale Park as their second recommendation. It's a highly used park. As you can see, it has great amenities, and it's only a 3-phase project, so the turnaround time and completion would be pretty quick on that one. Some challenges with Rosedale is that it can get pretty crowded, which is sometimes a good problem to have. That means people are out using our parks. This trail could impose on the Frisbee golf, and there's also limited parking here, especially during times when the park is being highly used. Our third recommendation is Pearson Park. Pearson Park is 113.5 acres. So the proposed trail you see here in purple is actually split almost into 2 loops. It would be approximately 1.05 miles total between the 2. This would be a larger project, longer project with 7 phases to be completed in 2027. The amenities at Pearson are great, playgrounds, large shelters, small fishing lake, tennis court, skate park, also some restrooms located here. Some positive comments for Pearson Park is it is highly used. There's great parking here at Pearson, and it has really good connectivity between the school and the neighborhoods. Some challenges with Pearson, as you'll see, it is split into 2 because the topography of Pearson can be very challenging to create trails. If anyone's been to Pearson, a lot of brush, there's some small rolling hills. So it wouldn't be a consistent pathway. It'd be split into 2. And then the 4th recommendation would be Wyandotte County Park. Wyandotte County Park is a 349.5 acre park, one of our larger parks. So the proposed trail here in purple would be approximately 1 mile long. It would take roughly 7 phases also to be completed in 2027. Wyandotte County Park has a lot of amenities. As one of our larger parks, there are many things to do there. Large shelters, small playgrounds, slide swings, softball, baseball fields, you have tennis, pretty much anything you'd like to do, you can come to Wyandotte County Park. Some positive comments: as you know, we have our first inclusive playground here that we just opened earlier this spring. So there's lots of momentum here at Wyandotte County Park. It has potential to be a destination park, and we do get the most feedback from our community that they'd really like some safe areas to walk. We see a lot of walkers here in Wyandotte County Park just out on the road. some challenges with Wyandotte County Park is that there is limited lighting. It's not directly connected to a neighborhood, so driving to this park would be essential. This would be staff and also the professionals' recommendation of where to begin our first trail project out of the 4. And those would be the 4 recommendations. Happy to take any questions or field any comments.
Any comments or questions from the commission?
What we're looking for tonight, is just some guidance and a decision on where the commission would like to invest the first round or invest the funds for the first project. Ideally, we'd like to do all 4 down the road, but we got to start with one. So we were advised to come to the commission and get some guidance.
Angel, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm assuming that Clam Park, the greatest density surrounds Clam Park, and then would the second most residential density be at Rosedale?
Yes, that's correct.
Right.
However, we did do some data tracking as far as movement and activity within the city, and Wyandotte County Park did have a lot, and Rosedale had showed up as the most with the movement and activity throughout the city in regards to location of parks.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. You kind of gave me my lead in the sense of the density of the area surrounding Clam Park. Obviously, Clam Park is near and dear to my heart. But as we continue to talk about health equity and health access, we're glad and thankful for the work that's been done.
I'm afraid we lost Commissioner Johnson. Well, we'll wait for him to come back on. So we'll go to Mr. Ramirez, and then we'll come back to Commissioner Johnson when he comes back on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what Commissioner Johnson was going to say is I do support what he was saying. I do support the recommendation of the park board for Clam Park. Rosedale is in my district. I would love to have a trail in that park, and like I said at a committee, I would like to see trails in all our parks, but we have to do them one by one. But I believe for this first round, for this first time, I would support the recommendation that Clam Park be the first one that we provide funding for. I want to thank Angel and our Parks Department for wanting to put this together and advancing our parks. Everyone knows Parks and Rec is true and dear to my heart, and so I want to thank them for all the work they've done for bringing these 4 recommendations together. And I hope that we can continue to do advancements and improvements to our parks like these. So again, I would support the Parks Board recommendation.
That will take us to Commissioner Walters. I think you had your hand up.
I did, but I lowered it. I was really going to kind of echo what had previously been said. I think we should put the first walking trail where it can do the most good, and I support the Clam Park recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I support Clam Park as well. Commissioner Johnson started speaking about health equity and health access, and those were the points that I was going to bring. I think it's an opportunity to add a nice amenity in an underserved area, and it's Clam Park for me. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson, you came back on.
Yeah, hey, if first you don't succeed, just find another device. So I'm back on. And again, I think it's already been indicated in terms of the density, the opportunity to access and provide access to an area that has not historically received it. And so I support the Clam Park, and with that, would like to make a motion that we would approve that as the first park for this process.
Second.
Mayor, second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Bynum, I believe. Commissioner Markley?
Mayor, I was just going to ask, staff indicated that Clam Park was recommended by the Parks Board. Staff's recommendation was for Wyandotte Park. So I was just curious for staff to provide a little bit of reasoning for that difference.
Sure, Commissioner. The further data that we ended up collecting, like I said, was part of that, the movement and activity mapping that came up. And unfortunately, we didn't incorporate that into here, but Wyandotte County Park area did have more activity and movement in that park location. And the way that they gather that data, and it's, our GIS mapping within the UG also can do the same thing, but it's based off of GPS tracking. If you go to that area, if you drive around that area, if you're tracking your run or you're using maps on your phone, it's all gathered through a data system.
So the idea being to track, like, is this going to be used if we build it here?
Yes, you could build the argument around that, yes. So in that data that was collected, and how we looked at it from that point of view was it was just a more active area. So if you took those 4 parks and you were to see those 4 maps, you would really see Wyandotte County Park light up as far as movement and activity. Clam Park, not so much, but again, that's not the same comparison as the density of population around that area.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Philbrook?
I understand why the Parks Committee wants Clam Park. I understand that. We're in a great need for good walking locations for folks, and as Commissioner Johnson mentioned, our health rankings, we need to do whatever we can to help that. But I also want to make a comment that, of course, these monies comes from the Convention and Visitors Bureau funding to increase tourism, and that's also another reason why I can see they picked Wyandotte Park out toward Bonner. But I am in support of Clam Park, but I almost have to lean as to number 2 being Wyandotte. I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents worth in there.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrows?
Thank you, Mayor. The question I have, Angel, is there anything else proposed besides just the walking path itself? Will there be benches or water available along the pathway to allow those that are challenged mobily to have a place to sit and rest? Or was that discussed while the trails were being discussed for these parks?
I can also let Jack speak to that, but for this particular project, what we are bringing forward is just the trail, and typically we do like to add benches along the way. And Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we just put a new restroom there, and the new restrooms that we install now have water fountains.
Yes, all new restrooms we install will now have a water fountain feature to it. And we do, on most of these big walking trails, we do place benches throughout it.
Great.
We do that in-house though, so.
Great, thank you, Jack.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. Just another quick comment. I think to Ms. Obert's point about activity, this is an opportunity for Clam to have increased activity. So that's it.
Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mayor. Angel, I know that it would be significantly shorter than any of the rest of these, and it wouldn't really connect necessarily with other trails, but we've been talking for several years about the possibility of a walking path at St. Margaret's Park. And I would just be curious, does it even enter this discussion as to the possibility of getting a similarly constructed path? Because I'm guessing it would only be about a half-mile long, and it looks like the shortest of these is a mile. So there are some differences, but would it qualify for consideration in the future?
Absolutely, Commissioner McKiernan. And I know you and I have discussed that before, and it would absolutely qualify, for the trail network development funding. So that's something we can consider, absolutely.
Thank you.
Rocky, you have your hand up. Rocky Mays?
I do. Commissioner Townsend has contacted the clerk's office and said that she is in support of Clam Park.
Oh, thank you so much. Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you, Rocky. I will just finally say that you all are aware, some of you all are aware that we've received funding through Mid-America Regional Council for a Northeast Heritage Trail. And this is a trail that we're hoping that will lead us from the Call Point, all the way to the ruins at Quindaro. And so I think that this is a good connection point between both parks, or between the trail itself and the park itself, I'm sorry, that will be really complementary and will encourage more walking in areas that we've not had the opportunities to do so. So just wanted to make that acknowledgement as well.
All right, thank you. Well, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Johnson?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye.
Walters?
Aye.
Philbrook?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye.
Burrows?
Aye.
Townsend?
Commissioner Townsend's voting aye.
McKiernan?
Aye.
Ramirez?
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
Philbrook, aye.
Philbrook, aye. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting for the evening. I'd like to thank you for your